Welcome back to Florida Living with Neil Archer. Everything real estate with a little bit of other stuff thrown in. This is a little bit of other stuff. I want to talk to you about something that I'm extremely passionate about because I started this thing back in 2007. It's called Wheels Across the Pond, and for those of you that saw the interview with me with Wayne before I started doing this show, I talked about my restaurant, and it was in Jupiter Farms, a British pub, and back in 2006 I had an Anglophile American who was more English than I am, and he was into big classic cars and British classic cars, and he suggested that we do a little informal meet at our restaurant. And we got the word out to a few car clubs, and one Saturday morning we ended up with about 45 cars and couldn't believe it. And we did a few more quarterly meets after that, and the guy said to me, "Why don't you do your own show?" And I never thought of it before, but it was like, with awards and public voting and sponsors and vendors, and you know what, over a few pints, it's amazing what can happen with a few pints. But we came up with a name, Wheels Across the pond being the Atlantic. I know I shouldn't have to explain that, but sometimes I do. And so all British cars, and we started our first show in 2007 where we got 155 cars on our very first show. We stayed in that location for 2 years, and we had the pub for 3 years, and when we actually sold the restaurant, I couldn't give this show up because it had become so good. And from people that come to car clubs and come to car shows, the accolades that we were getting from these people say this is the best show that we ever go to, and it's wonderful. And so we couldn't give it up. I couldn't give it up. So Wheels Across the Pond is an exclusively British and European classic car and bike show. And it's become the largest in South Florida. It's unbelievable. And there's some clubs and some shows kind of, lose sponsorship, or they lose revenue, or they lose a venue. We're having car clubs now join us as their official event. We've got the Rolls-Royce Club of America this year that are coming specifically to our show. We have the Vintage Iron Bike Club that they may not be putting on a show, so they're going to come in as well with all their bikes. And even though it's a public vote show, they're going to do a little judging within the class. And just to talk about some of the cars that come. Last year we had over 300 entries, and the show takes place at Carlin Park in Jupiter, which is right on the beach road. They do the dog wash there annually. They do Shakespeare in the Park. And the county have told us now that Wheels Across the Pond has become the largest event in Carlin Park, which absolutely blows me away because I've been to some of these shows and they're pretty big. So the cars that we have are, really old. Your grandfather or your father would probably have had these cars back in the 60s, the 70s, even the 50s, the 40s, Austin Healey, Triumph, Jaguar, Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, all those cars from Britain that were dream cars, at one time. Some of them are sports cars, some of them are exotics. Just to mention Triumph, we have about 6 different Triumph classes. Austin Healey 3000s, which is well over $100,000 value now. Last year we had 13 Austin Healey 3000s in one class. Triumph TR6, we had 14 Triumph TR6 cars all in one class. And what we do, we put these classes together so you see all of these cars, all 14 TR6s in one area of the show field. Rolls-Royce and Bentley, it's unbelievable. This year alone, we have like 7 Rolls-Royces that are already registered. One of them is a 1920 Rolls-Royce Ghost. Think about that for a minute. It's a 100-year-old car, and it's absolutely impeccable. It's been to Amelia Island. We have a 1931 Bentley 8-liter. To see this car, you would pay to see this car. You come to the show field for nothing, and you see. It's an absolutely wonderful show. So anything British, anything European, you can bring it to the show. And one of the reasons that I can't give this show up, not only because I'm so proud of what it's become, it's also a fundraiser for the Bush Wildlife Sanctuary, and over the years, since 2009, they've been our beneficiary. We've raised almost $20,000 for the charity. And, with your support, I want to make it even more. I'd love to, as the show progresses and it gets bigger, the expenses get bigger too. And so if you have a company that would like to get in front of, 300 people that own luxury cars and exotics and classics, and remember, this is one car that they have in their collection that they choose to bring to the show. We have some guys that bring 3 cars to the show. So if you want to get in front of that kind of an audience, and then the thousands of spectators that come, because we don't charge an entry for spectators, we do charge to bring a car or a bike in, give me a call, because we have a lot of sponsorship opportunities where you can get into that audience. And I believe that our sponsorship rates are extremely affordable, and we give tremendous return on investment with some of the stuff that we include in that sponsorship. You can put stuff in the goodie bags, you can get in front of our audience, and we help you do that. Give me a call, 561-601-3212, and go to our website, wheelsacrossthepond.com. And if you're thinking about registering a car, it's $35 ahead of time. We do pre-register entries, so $35 for a car, $20 for a motorcycle. Once we get the cutoff, which I think is like the 3rd week in March, we have a cutoff where we accept no more pre-registrations. And from that list that we have of pre-registered entries, we now determine our classes. So we put all of those registrations into. Last year, I think we had 47 classes. It's unbelievable. 47 different classes of British and European motorcycles and cars. And from that list, spectators come into the show field for free. It's $10 to park because you have very little parking there. So pay the $10, everything goes to Bush Wildlife. Come over, and we have voting forms that you can go around and you can fill it in. And that is what gives us the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place in all 47 classes. And then the coveted Best in Show. And some of the Best in Shows have been absolutely remarkable. So, Carlin Park, Jupiter, it's on Saturday, April the 11th. It's from 9 o'clock until 4:30, 5 o'clock is when we wrap it up. It's free to spectators. If you want to bring a car, you can pre-register at wheelsacrossthepond.com. And if you're interested in sponsorship and vendor spaces, you can call me at Neil Archer, 561-601-3212. I can guarantee it. You've never been to a show like Wheels Across the Pond. I know there's a lot of auto shows in South Florida. We have the weather for it, but it's a fantastic event. Bring the family, bring your dogs. It's just a wonderful event. So hopefully we'll see you on Saturday, April 11th, Wheels Across the Pond, Carlin Park, Jupiter. Thanks, guys.